Hey guys, in today's video, I bring you a truly extraordinary story that will move you deeply. Let's learn about the incredible journey of Rowena Cavanaugh, a young Finnish woman who, after being declared dead for 20 minutes, came back to life with a shocking prediction about October 20th. What she experienced on the other side will leave you speechless and change the way you see the future. So, before we start, leave your like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this, and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Now get ready, because this spiritual journey will surprise and transform you. My name is Rowena Cavanaugh, and I have a story to tell that completely changed my life. I'm a young Finnish woman living in the United States, and until recently, I was just another immigrant struggling to survive in a foreign country. Today, I am a survivor. Not only of an abusive relationship and terminal cancer, but also of a near-death experience that redefined everything I believed about life and the universe. I'm 23 now, and it feels like I've lived several lives in such a short time. I grew up in Finland in a small town near Helsinki, where winter seemed to last all year round and the northern lights were our natural fireworks. I came to the United States when I was 15, full of dreams and hopes for a better life. Little did I know that this decision would take me down paths I could never have imagined. I'm here today to share my journey with you. It's not an easy story to tell, but I feel it's my duty to share it. It all started with a relationship that I thought was the love of my life, but that almost took my life, and it ended with an experience that not only saved my life, but gave me new purpose. What I'm about to tell you may seem unbelievable to some. I would have a hard time believing it myself if I hadn't lived every moment. But I ask that you listen with an open heart. My near-death experience wasn't just about escaping physical death. It was about discovering the true essence of life, love, and our purpose here on earth. I will take you through my journey, from the darkest moments to the brightest light I have ever experienced. I will share how I survived a brutal attack, how I saw my own body from outside it, how I met with my deceased grandparents, and how I received a crucial message for all humanity. This is a story of pain, but also of healing, of despair, but also of hope, of death, but above all, of rebirth. It's the story of how I died for 20 minutes and came back not just with my life, but with a mission. So, get ready. What I'm about to tell you will change the way you view life, death, and everything that lies beyond. And maybe, just maybe, it could change the course of our collective future. It all started when I was 16 years old, newly arrived in the United States. That's when I met Maxwell. He was older, charming, and seemed to perfectly understand the loneliness I felt as an immigrant in a strange country. At first, our relationship seemed like something out of a fairy tale. Maxwell was thoughtful, caring, and made me feel special in a way I had never experienced before. But like many fairy tales, there was a dark side hidden beneath the shiny surface. Little by little, Prince Charming began to show his true face. What started as small derogatory comments and jealous outbursts soon turned into suffocating control over every aspect of my life. I was so involved, so emotionally dependent, that I didn't realize how dangerous the situation was becoming. Maxwell isolated me from the few friends I had made, convinced me to abandon my studies, and before I knew it, my entire life revolved around him. It was in this context of isolation and emotional abuse that I received the news that would change everything. At age 21, after months of ignoring symptoms I attributed to stress, I was diagnosed with stomach cancer. The prognosis was grim. Without treatment, I would have at most 2 years to live. The cancer news should have been a turning point, a reason to seek help and get away from Maxwell. But, paradoxically, it only made me cling to him more. I was scared, vulnerable, and he was the only person I had in the world, or at least that's what I believed. The diagnosis seemed to awaken something even darker in Maxwell. Physical attacks, which until then had been rare, became more frequent and violent. He seemed to take perverse pleasure in hurting me right where I was most vulnerable, in the stomach. "I'm not going to leave marks where they can see," he said, as if that were a form of care. I lived in a constant state of fear and pain. Cancer consumed my body from the inside, while Maxwell destroyed me from the outside. Every day was a struggle to survive. Not only the disease, but also the man who swore to love me. Looking back now, I wonder how I could endure so much for so long. But fear and manipulation have incredible power over the human mind. I was convinced that I had nowhere to go, that no one would accept me as sick as I was. Little did I know that I was about to experience something that would change all of that. That soon, I would be forced to face not just the possibility of death, but death itself. And that it would be this near-death experience that would finally free me. Not just from Maxwell, but from the limitations that I myself had imposed on my existence. The night of September 15th began like so many others. Maxwell had drunk too much, and I could feel the tension building in the air, thick and suffocating like smoke from an impending fire. I tried to make myself invisible, moving silently around the small apartment we shared, hoping that somehow I could avoid the explosion I knew was coming. But that night, nothing I did would be enough. The discussion started over something trivial. I don't remember exactly what. Maybe I left a glass out of place. Or maybe Maxwell simply decided it was time to take out his frustrations on me. The real reason didn't matter. It was just the trigger for something much deeper and more sinister. Words quickly gave way to fists. I was already used to violence, but this time there was something different in Maxwell's eyes. A blind fury, a determination that chilled me to the bone. He threw me against the wall so hard I felt the air leave my lungs. Before I could catch my breath, his hands were around my neck. Panic took over me as I realized that this time he wasn't going to stop. His fingers tightened more and more, and I could feel my consciousness slipping away. I fought, I scratched, I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. The world around me began to darken, and my thoughts became confused. In my last moments of consciousness, I had a flash of clarity. I saw my entire life flash before my eyes, not like a movie, but like flashes of moments. My childhood in Finland, my parents' smiling faces, my arrival in the United States full of hope. And then, a deep sadness invaded me as I realized that I was about to die without having really lived. And then, everything went dark. The next moment I remember is surreal and difficult to describe with words. Suddenly, I wasn't in the apartment anymore. I was in a hospital, looking down at a body that I recognized as my own. It was a strange sensation, as if I were floating about 9 feet above the ground. The scene below me was chaotic. Doctors and nurses moved frantically around the gurney where my body lay. I heard words like cardiac arrest and unresponsive. I saw the heart monitor showing a flat line and heard the continuous high-pitched sound that indicated my heart had stopped. The strangest thing of all was how I felt. Despite the dramatic scene unfolding below me, I was completely at peace. There was no fear, there was no pain. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free from the cancer that was consuming my body, free from Maxwell's abuse, free from all the worries and anguish that had defined my existence. As I watched the doctors try to revive me, I began to realize that what I was experiencing went far beyond a simple hallucination. It was real, more real than anything I had ever experienced before. And it was at that moment that I realized I had died. Or at least, my physical body had. But that was just the beginning of my journey. What happened next would forever change my understanding of life, death, and the purpose of our existence. As I floated above the chaotic hospital scene, an indescribable feeling of peace and tranquility enveloped me. It was as if all the worries, fears, and pain I carried had simply melted away. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. The most surprising thing was the clarity with which I could perceive everything around me. My senses felt amplified in a way I had never experienced before. I could see every detail of the emergency room with stunning clarity, from the tense expressions on the doctors' faces to the tiny beads of sweat on their foreheads. But it wasn't just his vision that was sharp. I could feel the emotions of every person in the room. The desperation of the doctors fighting to bring me back, the compassion of the nurses, and even a glimmer of hope that hung in the air. These emotions didn't affect me directly, but I perceived them with crystal clarity. As I watched my limp body on the gurney, a profound realization hit me. I was not that body. What I had always considered as me, my personality, my memories, my essence, was completely separate from that physical shell. It was as if I had spent my entire life identifying with an outfit I wore, only to discover that I was much more than that. At that moment, I understood that my true nature was much broader and deeper than I had ever imagined. I felt connected to something bigger, something that transcended the limits of time and space. It was as if I were a drop of water that finally realized I was part of an infinite ocean. The feeling of love that surrounded me was overwhelming. It was not a targeted or personal love, but a universal, unconditional love. It was as if the entire universe was embracing me, welcoming me. For the first time in my life, I felt completely accepted and loved exactly as I was. As I absorbed these sensations, I began to question how I could have lived so long without realizing this broader reality. How could I have limited myself so much, identifying only with my physical body and my personal history? The life I had led until then seemed so small, so limited compared to the vastness I now experienced. But there was no judgment in this realization, just a deep, compassionate understanding. I understood that my earthly journey, with all its pain and challenges, had a purpose. Every experience, every choice, every moment of joy and suffering had led me there. It was in this state of expansion and clarity that I realized my journey was not over. There was something more to be done, something important that I needed to experience and share. And it was then that I felt a familiar presence approaching, bringing with it a new wave of love and recognition. As I floated in this state of expanded consciousness, I felt a familiar presence approaching. Turning around, I was met with a sight that made my heart, or whatever that essence was that I now perceived as my true self, fill with joy. My grandparents were there, beaming and smiling. Grandpa Eric and Grandma Anya, who had passed away years before when I was still a child in Finland, stood before me, exactly as I remembered them, but somehow more luminous. They didn't look old or sick like they did in their last days on Earth. On the contrary, they radiated vitality and a kind of serene wisdom that I had never seen in my life. The most incredible thing is that we didn't need words to communicate. As soon as I saw them, I was flooded with a wave of love so pure and intense that it almost took my breath away, if I even needed to breathe in that state. They enveloped me in an ethereal embrace. And in that moment, I felt as if all the broken pieces inside me were being carefully reunited and healed. Without a single word being said, I understood everything they wanted to convey to me. I felt his pride in me, for having faced so many challenges. I felt his compassion for all the suffering I had gone through. And most of all, I felt his unconditional love, which transcended any earthly notion of affection. Through this silent communication, they showed me that they had been with me throughout my journey. In the darkest moments, when I felt completely alone, they were there, sending strength and love, even if I couldn't realize it. I saw flashes of moments when I felt a sudden courage or inexplicable hope. They were them, silently supporting me. In this timeless encounter, my grandparents gave me a clear message. I had a choice to make. I could remain in that state of infinite peace and love, free from all earthly pain and worries, or I could return to my physical life. There was no judgment in their communication, just love and acceptance, no matter what I chose. For a moment, I was tempted to stay. The idea of leaving behind all the suffering, the cancer, the abusive relationship, was incredibly attractive. Here, in this place beyond life, I felt complete, loved, and at peace in a way I had never experienced on Earth. But then, something changed. A deep understanding began to dawn on me. I realized that my journey on Earth was not complete. There was something more I needed to do, something important that only I could accomplish. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I definitely felt that my time had not yet come. My grandparents seemed to understand my hesitation and eventual decision before I even verbalized it. Their smiles widened, full of pride and love, They enveloped me in another ethereal hug, this time conveying strength and courage for the journey that lay ahead. In that moment, I felt a deep connection not just with my grandparents, but with an entire lineage of ancestors. It was as if I could feel the strength and wisdom of generations flowing through me. I realized that I was never really alone, and that I carried with me the resilience and love of all those who came before me. As I absorbed this understanding, a bright light began to form around us. It was warm and welcoming, but also powerful. Instinctively, I knew something great was about to happen. My grandparents took a step back, still smiling, as if they were introducing me to something or someone. The light intensified, and I felt an even vaster, more loving presence approaching. It was as if the universe itself was manifesting itself before me, and it was at that moment that I received the revelation that would change not only my life, but potentially the course of humanity. The light that had begun to form around me and my grandparents now expanded, enveloping us completely. It was like being in the center of a sun, but without the heat or discomfort, just a feeling of indescribable love and power. Within this light, I perceived the presence of beings that I could not see clearly, but whose existence I felt with certainty. These beings of light, as I came to call them in my mind, had no defined shape. They were more like pure consciousnesses, vibrating at a frequency I could barely comprehend. Communication with them was instantaneous and multidimensional, going far beyond words or even thoughts as we know them. It was then that I received the message that would change everything. With crystal clear clarity, the beings of light transmitted crucial information to me. On October 20th, something of immense proportions would happen to humanity. It was not a physical or catastrophic event, but a profound energetic and spiritual shift that would affect every human being on the planet. The message did not come with specific details about what exactly would happen that day. Instead, it was more of a feeling. A deep understanding that humanity's collective consciousness would undergo a significant transformation. It was as if a door was about to open, offering each individual the opportunity to raise their consciousness to a level never before experienced en masse. The beings of light emphasized the importance of spiritual preparation for this event. They showed me visions of people meditating, doing acts of kindness, forgiving old hurts, and connecting more deeply with nature and each other. These practices, they made me understand, would be crucial in helping people navigate the intense energy that would be released on October 20th. At the same time, I was warned about the challenges that would come with this change. Not everyone would be ready or willing to embrace this new energy. There would be confusion, fear, and resistance. Some might experience physical or emotional discomfort as their energies adjust. Others might try to deny or fight the change. The message was clear. My role, if I chose to return, would be to help prepare people for this event. I should share not only the information about the date, but also the importance of spiritual preparation. It was supposed to be a beacon of hope and understanding amidst the uncertainty to come. The beings of light showed me flashes of the potential future after October 20th, a world where people lived more compassionately, where connection with nature was restored, where old power structures gave way to more just and harmonious systems. But I was also shown that this future was not guaranteed. It depended on the individual and collective choices that humanity would make. As I absorbed all this information, I felt the weight of responsibility, but also an indescribable emotion. I was being entrusted with knowledge that could change the course of human history. It was scary, and at the same time, incredibly empowering. The beings of light began to move away, their message delivered. But before they disappeared completely, I felt one last wave of love and encouragement. They assured me that although the road ahead would be challenging, I would not be alone. There would be others like me, spread across the world, all working to prepare humanity for the great awakening of October 20th. As the light dimmed and I found myself with my grandparents again, I knew I had a crucial decision to make. Stay in this realm of eternal peace and love, or return with this vital message for humanity. The weight of this choice was immense, but in my heart, I already knew what my decision would be. As the presence of the light beings dissipated, I found myself once again in the welcoming company of my grandparents. The love and peace that emanated from them was a stark contrast to the magnitude of the revelation I had just received. For a moment, I was paralyzed, trying to process everything I had experienced and learned. The choice before me was clear but incredibly difficult. On one hand, there was the indescribable peace and unconditional love that I was experiencing in this realm beyond life. Here, there was no pain, there was no fear, there was no weight of earthly worries. I could simply leave behind all the suffering I had experienced on earth. The cancer, the abusive relationship, the daily struggles. The idea of remaining in this state of eternal bliss was incredibly tempting. On the other hand, there was the mission that had been entrusted to me. The revelation about the October 20th event weighed on my conscience. I knew this information could potentially change the course of human history. If I chose to stay, who would carry this message? Who would help prepare humanity for this imminent transformation? My grandparents, in their quiet wisdom, did not try to influence my decision. They were simply there, offering their unconditional love and support no matter what I chose. I felt his deep understanding that this was a decision only I could make. I closed my eyes, or whatever the equivalent was in this non-physical state, and allowed myself to fully feel both options. I felt the peace and love that surrounded me, the freedom from all earthly worries. It was wonderful, perfect in a way that words cannot describe. But then I thought about Earth. I thought about the people I would leave behind, not just my loved ones, but all of humanity. I thought about the potential for transformation and growth that the October 20th event represented. And surprisingly, I even thought about the difficulties and challenges I would face if I returned. I realized that every experience, even the painful ones, had shaped me and prepared me for this moment. It was then that I understood. My journey on Earth was not complete. There was a greater purpose for my life, something only I could accomplish. The peace and love I was experiencing here was not a final destination, but a reminder of what was possible, of what we could all achieve. With this realization, I felt a wave of determination wash over me. Yes, returning would mean facing pain and challenges. It would mean leaving this state of perfect harmony behind, but it would also mean the opportunity to make a real difference, to help guide humanity towards a brighter future. I looked at my grandparents, and without words, I communicated my decision. Their smiles widened, full of pride and understanding. They wrapped me in one last hug, conveying strength, courage, and love for the journey that lay ahead. As I prepared to return, I felt a mix of emotions: apprehension at what was to come, sadness at leaving this realm of peace, but most of all, a powerful sense of purpose and determination. I was ready to return, to face whatever came my way, and to fulfill the mission entrusted to me. The road ahead would be challenging, but I knew I carried with me the strength and love I had experienced here. With one last look at my grandparents in the realm of light, I surrendered to the process of returning, feeling my consciousness being pulled back into the physical world. It was time to wake up, to live again, and to share the message that could change everything. Returning to my physical body was an intense and disorienting experience. One moment I was enveloped in light and unconditional love, and the next I was abruptly pulled back into physical reality, with all its sensations and limitations. The first thing I noticed was the sound, the constant, urgent beeping of hospital machines, agitated voices talking about vital signs and resuscitation. Then came the physical sensation, a sharp pain in the chest, probably from the resuscitation efforts, and a general discomfort throughout the body. I opened my eyes slowly, blinking against the bright light of the hospital room. The figures around me, initially blurry, began to come into focus. I saw expressions of shock and relief on the faces of the doctors and nurses surrounding me. "She's back," I heard someone exclaim, their voice mixed with disbelief and excitement. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry and sore. A nurse kindly offered me some water, explaining that I shouldn't try to talk just yet. Little by little, I became aware of the situation. The doctors explained to me that I had been clinically dead for approximately 20 minutes. They had been trying to revive me all this time, about to declare my death when, inexplicably, my heart started beating again. In the days that followed, I underwent a series of tests. The doctors wanted to assess whether there was any brain damage due to the long period without oxygen, as well as monitor my general condition. It was during these examinations that something even more extraordinary was discovered. The oncologist, who had been with me since my stomach cancer diagnosis, entered my room with an expression that mixed confusion and wonder. He held in his hands the results of my most recent exams. "Miss Cavanaugh," he began, his voice trembling slightly, I don't know how to explain this. We reran the tests 3 times to be sure, but the results are always the same. There are no longer any signs of cancer in your body." I remained silent, absorbing his words. Part of me wanted to scream with joy, while another part was in complete shock. The doctor continued, explaining that not only had the primary tumor in the stomach disappeared, but also all the metastases that had previously been detected. "In my 30-year career, I've never seen anything like it," he admitted. "It's as if your body has undergone complete regeneration. There is no medical explanation for this." As the doctor continued to talk about the need for more tests and studies, I allowed myself to truly feel the miracle that had happened. It wasn't just the cancer that was gone. I felt different inside, as if every cell in my body had been renewed and revitalized. In the days that followed, other aspects of my miraculous healing became evident. The chronic pain I had felt for years was gone. My energy was at a level I hadn't experienced since before my diagnosis. Even old scars on my body seemed to have disappeared or diminished significantly. The doctors were perplexed. They talked about spontaneous remission and unexplained cure. But I knew that what had happened was far beyond current medical understanding. My near-death experience, the encounter with my grandparents and the beings of light, the revelation about October 20th, all of this had not only cured my cancer, but completely transformed me. As I recovered in the hospital, I began to feel a growing urgency. The message I had received about the October 20th event weighed heavily on my mind. I knew that I had been sent back with a purpose, and that the time to fulfill that mission was short. As the doctors continued to marvel at my recovery, I began to plan my next steps. I knew I had an important task ahead of me, preparing the world for the transformation that was coming. The path would not be easy, but I was ready to face it, renewed in body, mind, and spirit. Little by little, I began to share parts of my experience with the medical staff and some patients at the hospital. Their reactions ranged from fascination to incredulity, but I could feel that my words touched something deep in many of them. It was just the beginning of my mission, but I could already feel the impact my story would have on the world. As I prepared to leave the hospital, I knew I was about to embark on the most important journey of my life. The world outside was the same as I had left it, but I was profoundly changed. With the healing of my body also came a clarity of purpose that I had never experienced before. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to face it. I had a message to share and a world to help prepare. And, for the first time in a long time, I felt truly alive and full of hope for the future. Leaving the hospital was like being born again. The world around me looked the same, but my perception of it had changed drastically. The colors seemed more vibrant, the sounds clearer, and I could feel a pulsing energy in everything around me. It was as if a veil had been lifted, allowing me to see and feel life in all its depth and complexity. In the first few days after my discharge, I found myself struggling to adapt to this new reality. The intensity of my perceptions and emotions was almost overwhelming. Sometimes I found myself crying with joy at the sight of a sunset, or feeling a deep connection with strangers on the street. It was as if I could feel the interconnectedness of all things, an invisible web of energy and consciousness that linked everything and everyone. But not everything was easy. The memories of my near-death experience were vivid and powerful, and at times I felt out of place in this physical world. There were times when I longed for the peace and unconditional love I had experienced in the afterlife. and earthly reality seemed harsh and challenging in comparison. It was at this point that I met Dr. Jameson Pierce, a psychologist who specializes in near-death experiences. He became an invaluable guide on my journey of integration and understanding what had happened to me. "What you experienced, Rowena, was a dramatic expansion of consciousness," he explained to me in one of our first sessions. "It's natural to feel disoriented and even overwhelmed. The challenge now is to integrate this experience into your everyday life." With Dr. Pierce's guidance, I began to develop practices to help me navigate this new reality. Meditation has become a crucial part of my daily routine, helping me find balance and centeredness. I learned grounding techniques to reconnect with the physical world when I felt too ethereal. Little by little, I began to find a balance between the spiritual and the mundane. I realized that my experience was not about escaping this world, but about bringing some of that love and expanded consciousness into my daily life and the lives of those around me. One of the most profound transformations was my relationship with fear. The fear of death, which had tormented me before, had completely disappeared. I had experienced what lay beyond and knew there was nothing to fear. It gave me courage I never knew I possessed. This courage manifested itself in practical and powerful ways. The first thing I did was cut all ties with Maxwell, my abusive ex-boyfriend. Where before I would have hesitated out of fear and insecurity, now I acted with unshakable certainty. I sought legal help and made sure he could never harm me again. My relationship with time has also changed drastically. Awareness of the brevity and preciousness of life made me value each moment in a new way. I started living more intentionally, making choices aligned with my greater purpose. As I healed and transformed, I felt an increasingly strong calling to share my experience and the message I had received. I started small, sharing my story with close friends and support groups. People's reactions ranged from fascination to skepticism, but I could feel that my words touched something deep in many. Gradually, I expanded my reach. I started giving talks at small events, participated in podcasts about spirituality and near-death experiences. Each time I shared my story, I felt like I was fulfilling a little more of the purpose I was sent back for. However, whenever I talked about the October 20th event, I was met with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Some people were open and eager to prepare, while others dismissed the idea as a fantasy or hallucination. I learned to accept these diverse reactions with grace and understanding, knowing that each person was on their own journey. One of the most important lessons I learned during this period of transformation was the importance of balance. As I embraced my new spiritual awareness, I also recognized the need to remain grounded in the physical world. After all, this was where my mission was to be accomplished. I began to see my life as a bridge between two worlds, the physical and the spiritual. My role was not to deny one in favor of the other, but rather to bring the wisdom and love I had experienced in the beyond into the here and now, to help raise the collective consciousness of humanity. As October approached, I felt a growing sense of urgency. The event that had been revealed to me was approaching, and I knew there was still a lot of work to be done, but now, transformed by my experience and strengthened by my journey of healing and integration, I felt ready to face whatever came. Looking back at the person I was before my near-death experience, I could hardly believe how far I had come. The journey had been challenging, sometimes painful, but incredibly enriching, and I knew it was just the beginning. With a heart full of gratitude and purpose, I prepared for the next chapter of my mission. The world was about to change, and I was ready to do my part in guiding that transformation. Here I am, just days away from the event that will change the course of humanity, reflecting on the incredible journey that has brought me to this moment. My name is Rowena Cavanaugh, and I carry with me a message that has the power to transform the world as we know it. Since returning from my near-death experience, I have dedicated every moment of my life to preparing people for what is to come. October 20th is not just a date on the calendar. It is a portal to a new era of human consciousness. It is an invitation for all humanity to take a quantum leap in their spiritual evolution. Over the past few months, I have traveled tirelessly, sharing my story and the message I received from beings of light. I spoke at conferences, gave interviews, wrote articles, and used every platform available to reach as many people as possible. The response has been overwhelming and diverse. Many embraced the message enthusiastically, feeling a deep resonance with their own intuitions and spiritual experiences. Meditation groups and healing circles began to form around the world, focused on raising the collective vibration in preparation for the big day. Others, of course, met the message with skepticism and even hostility. I was called crazy, a religious fanatic, and even a charlatan. But these negative reactions didn't discourage me. On the contrary, they reminded me of the importance of the work I am doing. Transformation is never easy, and resistance is a natural part of the process. What I have emphasized in all my communications is that the event of October 20th is not something to fear, but rather to embrace with hope and expectation. It is not the end of the world, but the beginning of a new form of human existence. It is an opportunity for each individual to awaken to their true potential and the interconnectedness of all life. Preparing for this event does not involve bunkers or food stores. Instead, it involves a preparation of the heart and mind. I have encouraged people to practice meditation, cultivate compassion, seek to heal old emotional wounds, and strengthen their connections with nature and each other. One of the most important messages I shared is that while October 20th is a powerful catalyst, real transformation depends on the individual and collective choices we make. The beings of light showed me that the future is not written in stone. We have the power to co-create our reality, and the October 20th event is an opportunity for us to do this in a more conscious and harmonious way. As the big day approaches, I feel a mix of emotions. There is excitement for the transformation to come, but also a deep responsibility. I know that not everyone will be prepared for the intensity of the energy that will be released. There will be confusion, fear, and resistance. My role, and the role of all those who are awakened to this reality, will be to anchor the light and offer support during the transition. Over the past few weeks, I have felt an intensification of energy around me. My dreams are filled with symbols and messages, and throughout the day, I experience moments of clarity and connection so profound that they sometimes leave me breathless. I know I'm not alone in these experiences. From all over the world, I have received reports of people experiencing similar phenomena, a clear sign that the transformation is already underway. As I prepare for the events of October 20th, I am staying focused on gratitude. I am grateful for the incredible journey that has brought me here, for the miraculous healing I have experienced, and for the opportunity to serve humanity at this crucial time. I am grateful for each person who listened to my message with an open heart, and even for those who questioned it, as their questions helped me refine and strengthen my understanding. My final message to everyone, as we approach this transformative moment, is this: open your hearts to the unconditional love that permeates the entire universe. Free yourself from fear and embrace change with courage and hope. Remember that we are all one, interconnected in a web of consciousness that transcends time and space. The future that awaits us after October 20th is bright and full of possibilities. It is a future where compassion guides our actions, where our connection to the earth and all living things is honored, where our differences are celebrated rather than feared. It is a future we co-create with every choice we make, every act of kindness, every moment of expanded consciousness. We are on the cusp of a new dawn for humanity. The path ahead may be challenging, but it is infinitely rewarding. Together, we can navigate this transition and emerge into a brighter, more loving, more conscious world. As the sun sets on this eve of transformation, I feel a deep peace and joyful anticipation. Tomorrow, when the world wakes up to October 20th, nothing will be the same, and I will be here, with open arms, ready to embrace the new world that is being born. The future is now. The moment is now. Are we ready? If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.